The avoidant wasn't bonded to you. This is something that really doesn't get talked about enough. If you were abruptly discarded by your avoidant ex, who is likely a dismissive avoidant or perhaps a fearful avoidant that leaned heavily dismissive, this person wasn't bonded to you. You were bonded to them. That's why your heart is in pieces. That's why you are still trying to pick up the pieces of your broken heart. That's why you're having a hard time moving on. You were bonded to this person, but they weren't bonded to you. And no, it's not because you weren't good enough. It has nothing to do with that. And has everything to do with the walls that this person has up and their lack of oxytocin exposure as a child. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone. Human beings are naturally bonding creatures. We bond to a partner. We bond to children. We bond to family members such as parents, siblings, cousins. We bond to friends. We even bond to pets. Oxytocin goes off in the brain when we are having those kind of relationships, especially in a romantic relationship, and you bond to this person. This becomes the person that you are bonded with at a deep emotional level. Oxytocin is a key component of forming long-term lasting relationships, especially healthy ones. Oxytocin, by the way, is also directly linked to empathy. Now, avoidance, especially dismissive avoidance, they experienced consistent childhood emotional neglect. This means they weren't really exposed to oxytocin in a significant way as a child. So they lack the capacity to truly oxytocin bond to a partner. And the walls that they have up because of their insecurities and their fear of intimacy and their fear of rejection, those internal walls also further prevent them from bonding to a partner. Early in the relationship with the dismissive avoidant, it is the shared fantasy. That's because it is a fantasy. It's not a real relationship. There's no real threat of emotional intimacy. There's no real commitment. There's no real expectations. It's a fantasy. It's a romance novel, a fairy tale, a movie. Now, the dopamine is flying high. Dopamine is the reward hormone. It helps you feel good and it helps you feel infatuated. Dopamine really fuels infatuation. So the avoidant is infatuated with you. But because of their inability and lack of skill in oxytocin bonding, they confuse dopamine infatuation with being in love. But the brain simply cannot sustain those elevated levels of dopamine. Nobody can. So that's why the honeymoon phase usually lasts somewhere between 4 to 8 months, give or take. That's when the dopamine levels come down. But for healthy, emotionally available people, oxytocin is taking over, helping keep those romantic feelings alive. Of course, it takes effort, choices, and commitment, but oxytocin helps you stay bonded and helps keep the romance alive between partners. But you have that oxytocin. You're getting flooded with it early on when the avoidant is love bombing you in the shared fantasy. But when the dopamine levels come down for the avoidant, the oxytocin isn't really there, so all that's left are their insecurities. Their fear of emotional closeness, their fear of rejection, their fear of not meeting expectations, fear of losing their independence. So now it's just their insecurities and there's no deep bond. But because of a lack of self-awareness, they avoid, including avoiding self-reflection. They think they've just lost feelings and they've fallen out of love, and it must be your fault because you must be the wrong person for them. Because when they find the right person, they won't feel this way. So they're able to abruptly walk away because they weren't really truly bonded. When you're deeply bonded to a person, it is very hard to just walk away. Well, is it easy for you to walk away from the avoidant? Probably not, because you're bonded to them. But they aren't bonded to you. It's because of their lack of capacity. Now, can they learn to oxytocin bond and grow that capacity? Absolutely. But it takes a lot of effort, a lot of work, and a lot of therapy. But without that work, without that therapy, without that commitment to a change in behavior and reprogramming the emotional mind through a consistent change in behavior over time, the bond just isn't there. So ask yourself this: do you really want to pursue a relationship with a person that's already shown that they are not bonded to you? Being bonded to someone who's not bonded to you is a recipe for anxiety, pain, and